Mic test 1 2 1 2 1.
All right, heck of a movie. Heck of a movie, huh?
Baby, I haven't even said about why are you talking?
Those were her vows.
I'm Marisol McKee,
And I'm Adam Collins.
both singles champions from the Movie Trivia Schmodown.
And this is Champs on Film. So yeah, the drama. Been thinking about this movie for a little bit since we saw it. This movie's done really well for A24. That's been part of its success story, which for A24 is not always the imperative. And it shouldn't be, because they're about propping up artists and films that may not otherwise get a wide audience. But this one had the Zendaya and the Arpats factor, so that can't be denied.
Well, you have that kind of star power if this was going to definitely get a lot of eyes on it.
I want to go in knowing as little as possible.
We're going to discuss the movie a little more broadly for these first few minutes before we dive into a little more spoiler discussion, because The Drama is a movie that absolutely hinges on a reveal, and that reveal happens quite early in the film.
From the outset, it's the story of a younger couple coming together.
Charlie and Emma are on the verge of getting married. They're engaged, they're really excited. And right in the midst of their relationship planning, certain things come to light that changes the course of their relationship ahead of their wedding.
That's the worst thing I've ever done.
Okay, Are you serious?
The movie delivered a lot of tension that is specific and normally more exclusive to a lot of the horror movies I've seen. And for a movie that is largely a drama, as it lives up to its name, with a distinct dark sense of humor, mind you, I do think it plays along those genre lines in really creative ways that surprised me.
Both Robert Pattinson and Zendaya tap into the microaggressions and the details of their characters in a very short amount of time, which, in combination with some very excellent editing in the first act of the movie, make this couple feel very lived in. And we watch that chain reaction of consequence in Charlie's best friend, Mike, and then Mike's wife, Rachel, played by Alana Hayam, and Mike, played by Mama Duati.
To perfection in both cases.
Yes.
Really great actors. The supporting characters are what make this movie so rich.
I find The Drama to be one of those films where, in particular, the journey is the meat of the story rather than the destination. Kristoffer Borgli was very keyed into his actors with this. And I keep coming back to that tasting scene with the four of them. That is just my favorite scene in the movie. I keep coming back to it. That scene is directed to perfection, acted to perfection, builds to perfection.
Any movie structured around a wedding has that ticking clock feeling, but this more so than any of them because of the way it's structured. There's a lot of specifics that are left unexplained, which I appreciate.
I find there to be a lot of relevant hot button issues in this film about the culture of moral posturing and how we in our public opinion spaces are very fast to demonize those around us. The drama forces us to acknowledge that the gray exists in a lot of our relationships and attempt to navigate that with some nuance, or else you're going to end up with a black eye on your wedding day.
Like us, there's a lot of you out there who have probably caught up on this movie and are ready to chew the fat. So let's get into it. This movie is framed around Emma revealing about herself that she once considered committing an act of violence at her school when she was a younger teenager. I think it takes the subject matter seriously while remaining subversive enough that it doesn't lose the tone of the movie. Very, very tricky to do, especially when you introduce this concept. And that's why I appreciate the character of Rachel. Her initial reaction to finding this out at the dinner scene, I think, speaks to a lot of what the audience is thinking in that moment, that gut reaction.
Yep.
I like the way things shift between Emma and Charlie in this movie, in the sense of she wants to put the genie back in the bottle, and I'm very sympathetic to her in that way. All of us have had lesser versions of this where we're embarrassed about something or we're ashamed of something and we can't take it back. You know, we can't unreveal it.
I keep coming back to the dinner scene because you see the imbalance at that table. Everybody is like, yeah, I did something embarrassing, but I've had time to reconcile and I've had time to justify my actions and put it behind me and process a lot of this stuff.
Not for once am I judgmental of her character the way other characters are in this movie,
Right.
because they contextualize it through flashbacks, through her performance.
I actually feel that the flashbacks give too much certainty to things. We're supposed to trust the flashbacks. It gives us too much context of it. One of the strengths of the movie is the power of perception and our own bias. Charlie projects his own image of Emma after he learns these things about her, and we counter it a little too much by seeing the real story of what happens to Emma as a teenager. The drama is at its strongest when all of the characters are unreliable. There's a part of me that wishes that it maintained that ambiguity for it for more of the film, but I'm not going to get hung up on what it didn't do.
I understand where you're coming from, because even though it offers some clarity, some of those flashbacks, it does muddy the waters a bit, because Emma's the only character we're given that lens into.
Mhm.
We don't get that with Charlie. Charlie is a bit of a cipher at the end of this movie.
Yes.
And if that's by design, I'm not sure what I'm meant to extract from that in comparison to Emma, because their characters are presented on equal footing through a lot of the movie, definitely by the end.
Why are you acting like you've never done anything bad?
So late in the film, we're introduced to yet another character, a coworker of Charlie's at the museum he works at, named Misha. And here's what I got to say. I think Misha had to do a lot of heavy lifting as a character who he like sort of kind of cheats with, but not quite, almost at the end, right before the wedding. It introduces a really tense dynamic at the end that wasn't there the whole movie. And it kind of changes what we're focusing on. And as good as she is, and as funny as that character is, it made it kind of wacky going into the wedding, if I'm being honest.
Don't you want the wackiness?
Yeah, but like he just falls into the usual trap that we've seen in movies so many times before.
Yeah, that's what men always do. They're like, oh no, I got my D wet.
Okay. I can appreciate wanting to put them on some attempt at a level playing field, but I found myself frustrated with the cheating subplot, because up until then it was all about him growing as a person and figuring out, hey, I love this woman I'm marrying. Yes, she considered something when she was younger, but she's grown. And as we see, as the movie goes on, she had a pivot at that point in her life that made her conduct her life a different way. So for him to lord this over her the whole time, and then for it to take a stupid mistake he makes, for him to have sympathy, for him to beg her to come back, I found that a little frustrating.
The wedding was predictably messy, and the sheer volume of entertainment extracted from Alana Haim's death glares, it's all just so good. I could tell that Kristoffer Borgli he really wanted to hold the mirror up to a certain toxicity that he sees bleeding into the way that we are today.
Yeah.
And it's reflected in, obviously, like we talked about, the dynamic between all these characters.
Would this have been easier to deal with if it had just been a conversation between the two of them? Yes, it would.
Of course. But that's not how life works sometimes, as we know. Which brings me back to how deliciously messy this thing is. Oh my God.
What's your favorite part of the wedding?
I don't know. I live for all the awkward moments in this movie. I find the resolution to wrap it just a little too neatly in a little bow. And I think that is very sweet. But I also think that's going to last for about 6 days before they're back in the circling drain of self-doubt and paranoia again.
An agreement to at least maybe consider taking a break for them would be healthy. How do you even recover as a couple unless you move, to Wyoming? And maybe that's what they do. Oh, the drama.
Little known fact, this movie was based off of our actual wedding.
I wouldn't say that.
If that was too much drama for you, come to a happier place. Follow Champs on Film.
Yes, we're everywhere. Please follow us here and subscribe and like our videos. We appreciate that. But check us out on Blue Sky now. We're also on X and Instagram and Letterboxd.
Good times.
Enough drama for now, until I guess the Odyssey comes out and these two get dramatic again.
Wouldn't that be crazy if they still were arguing over that shit in like ancient Greece?
Maybe that's what happens. Maybe Charlie and Emma time travel, and that's what the Odyssey's all about.